Welcome to EntreProgrammers Podcast, the podcast for developreneurs, where you get to be a fly on the wall listening to real conversations of developers trying to tackle the challenges they face as entrepreneurs.
Hey, John Sonmez here. Just want to take a second to tell you about a tool that I am really excited about. I've recently switched all of my email marketing over to a tool called Drip, and I couldn't be happier. I created a course, an email course, about how to create a blog that boosts your career, and so far I've gotten a ton of signups from it, way more than I expected. Not only that, but the engagement level of the people that are signing up is huge, and then at the end of the course, I'm getting big conversion rates, which is something that I really need in order to sell my products, and this is something that's extremely helpful to any entrepreneur, EntreProgrammer out there. The reason why Drip works so well is because it's specifically built for bootstrappers. It's email marketing for bootstrappers, and this is really why I switched over and why I'm finding it so effective. If you want to get started with Drip, you can get started today. Just go to getdrip.com/EntreProgrammers. Once again, that's getdrip.com/EntreProgrammers. And when you sign up, you can get an email mini course created for you. They'll actually do this for you. So if you're not sure how to do this, if you have a few blog posts or an ebook, they can get that started for you, which makes it super simple, and you can start getting those benefits today and not tomorrow. They also have all the kind of marketing automation rules that you would want, tagging, much better than a lot of the other major automation players, and they integrate with things like Stripe, PayPal, Leadpages, Chargeify, Gumroad, tons of great features in there. So I highly recommend that you check it out. Go to getdrip.com/EntreProgrammers. Take care.
This episode of the EntreProgrammers is brought to you in part by the Telerik platform at telerik.com/platform. The Telerik platform allows developers to build, connect, test, and deploy cross-platform mobile applications using nearly any approach, web, hybrid, or native. With tools like the App Builder to create mobile apps with HTML and JavaScript, control suites for Windows, Android, and iOS, and powerful management tools like Telerik Analytics and App Manager, you're sure to find what you need. With powerful tools of the Telerik platform, the UI tools, and so much more that it provides, you will be able to create outstanding user experiences. So check it out and try the Telerik platform today at telerik.com/platform.
We're live. I had to preempt John there.
I was going to say we're on the internets. But
We be on the internet.
there we go.
All right.
All right, you lose. Okay.
You started it, Chuck.
Started what?
The show.
Oh, it's all my fault, huh?
Yes.
Okay, do you guys mind if I plan on sharing at least some snippets of this, if that's okay, to my subscribers? So do you guys mind at a certain point just talking as if you're talking to somebody who's just starting to program and what they should do first?
Sure, yeah.
Yeah.
That'd be great.
No problem doing that. Okay.
John sucks at career advice, though.
Yes, exactly.
Don't a whole book on it. It's terrible.
So So in case you haven't noticed, I'll take the floor from Chuck. We have a guest on the show this week, Jake Williams, who from Wild Academy, right? Am I saying that right?
Yep.
And Jake does a lot of YouTube videos and tutorials and really cool YouTube stuff. He gave us this really cool recommendation, I think, last week on our show in the comments about using a picture of your audience to get sponsors to really give that effect, which I thought was really, really cool. That's an approach that I'm definitely going to use, especially more so when when someone in my family says, why are you recording videos on the internet, and who do you think you are, and and then I would say, do you see this football field full of people? Okay,
yeah.
They think I'm smart, and I don't care about you, you people. So.
Yeah, it's I posted a picture of Lavelle Edwards Stadium, which holds about 65,000 people. I'm sure it can hold more dogs if you stack them, but yeah, that's how many viewers I get every month on average. So, well, it's, last month it was 60,000. This month it was 65,000. So that continues to go up every month. But it really, when we go on YouTube, and I said this in the comment, when we go on YouTube, all the videos we see are like the one hit, like million views, 2 million views.
Right.
And as I said in the comment, that's really not the norm. And a lot of those people who get those one-hit wonders, they don't have consistencies on their channels. So if you're on Reddit and they say, hey, this person did this really funny thing, it's like they have 2 million views, and well, that person, this is the first hit they've had, so they're scrambling to become a YouTube partner and quickly monetize all those views that are coming in. And then again, it's just the up and downs. And when you're looking for a sponsor, you have to show consistency. I mean, that's why podcasts are so. Podcasts are better at getting sponsors because there's rarely a podcast that is a one-hit wonder, right? That everybody is sharing. Oh man, listen to this half-hour podcast with these people talking about, And so there are benefits to having consistency that far outweigh trying to go for those home runs. Basically, I don't know if it was this show, but somebody said you win baseball games off of single base hits.
Yeah.
Yep.
So that's what I focus on, and then eventually I'll have to send 2 pictures of a football stadium in order to send the message.
Nice. Could you tell us a little bit about what you do?
Oh well, I'm actually a designer. I do 3D modeling and landscape and interior design, and then I do foster care as well. Me and my wife. Before that, I had a business called Fix-A-Phone that I started, and that was here in Salt Lake, and grew that to 12 employees, 3 locations, like in-store locations, and we sold that. We were doing about $1 million a year in revenue, and that was just super exciting for me because, the thing that was exciting about it is that I had no idea what I was doing.
Right.
With my partners.
Right.
And, I always kind of want to be in that position because going to work every single day was a thrill, right? So, when the iPad came out, or the iPad 2 came out, somebody brought a broken one in and they said, okay, fix this, right? And it's like, okay, this came out yesterday. There's no tutorials online on how to fix it, right? So I've got a hot air gun and some guitar picks, and I'm just praying that I don't have to spend $1,000 replacing this. Right. So those were really those I still are one of the most intense and funnest times of my life, and it taught me a lot about business because I would be on the floor dealing with customers, and I would, the people that you would talk to, the personalities range, you could break somebody's device on accident. I know I've brought up breaking twice now, but it didn't happen that often.
Yeah, we constantly just break everything.
This is why we're no longer around.
Right.
Sold that business at the right time, didn't you? Where those Google local ratings came out.
Yeah. Oh, time to sell. But yeah, that taught me that that you can do pretty much anything and you can learn anything. And so after that company sold, I started a design firm. And this is, I know I'm going into my history a little bit, but I guess that's okay because all the viewers know, I know a lot about you guys, and so I think it's fair that I at least do a 5-minute jump through. After that, I started a design firm called wildlandscaping.com, and it actually started out as a 3D modeling site. It wasn't design in particular. Mm-hmm. I was just trying to get some clients, and I used SketchUp. And this is funny how I got my first client, because I didn't know if there was a market for 3D modeling. I'd always kind of been interested in it. So what I did is I saw an ad on Facebook, and I saw that there was like a model in it, and it was for a landscaping firm. And I said, well, they're using some sort of 3D modeling software. So I clicked on that ad, and then I emailed them, and I said, hey, I noticed you guys use the same 3D modeling software I use, and I could do that 3D modeling for you. And And so they responded and they said, "Oh yeah, cool. You're a SketchUp user." And then I like got in my head, I'm like, SketchUp, that's what they use. and then he said, "Okay, well let's meet in Park City tomorrow." And I'm like, "Oh yeah, sure, okay." And so I downloaded SketchUp like immediately after that phone call because we called and we talked, and I just spent all night figuring out how this program worked so that I could have something to show him the next day. So I showed him that, and it was something like blocky, like a really ugly-looking house or whatever. And then he was my first client, and then from there I just continued to build up and continued to increase the rates. So it really is like one of those things where you can learn, like the most important thing, and if you watch John's YouTube channel, which I recommend all of my subscribers go and subscribe to him, because he gives a lot of personal just advice about how to be successful in business. Like for instance, Chuck is an awesome example. I reached out to Chuck and I said, I don't remember what I said. Whatever it was good enough to have him follow up, and then we had dinner together, and then now here I am on EntreProgrammers, and it's because of Chuck that I was able to get on this show. And so networking and finding contacts is your job. It's not, if you're just turning in resumes somewhere to try and get a job as a programmer somewhere, you're not doing your due diligence. Now let me tell you how I got my second big client for my design firm. What I did was that I started a blog, and I just started writing about topics. And I said, this is great, because now that I have a blog, I'm going to email all of these companies, and I'm going to say, hey, I'm writing an article on your company. Do you mind if I come in and interview the owner? Nice. That way, I have all my facts right. Okay. And they're like, oh wow, they're gonna write about my company. That's they're flattered.
So this was landscaping companies?
This was an interior design firm.
Oh, okay.
I was still getting 3D modeling gigs. Yeah. So the designers would hand off those their designs to me on paper, like the sketches they have, and then I would 3D model them. And so what I would do is I would go into architects firms and interior design firms, and I would interview them, and I'd write them up. But what happens is when you're interviewing somebody, and I didn't tell them anything about what I did. I just told them I was writing an article on their company. But it always ends up turning into a reverse interview, where they say, oh, what is it that you do? And then I tell them. And I got my second big client by using that method, because it's really hard to get an interview with the owner if you say, hey, I'm looking for a job, can I come in and interview, and can the owner of the company interview me?
Right.
Right. So you have to, and again, and this is what's great, I call this like multiple payout potentials. It's where even if I don't get a gig from them, I still got content out of it. I still got the recording of their interview that I could upload as a podcast because I recorded it on my phone. I still got the article that I wrote, and this is the other thing you have to realize is that I'm now linking to their website from my website, and then on their Facebook page and their social networks, they're sharing my content that I've written about them. And so now I've created an association with them online. So when somebody looks up, 3D modeling, interior design, like my site is directly associated with theirs. So you build up your linking with that. So there's a lot of different ways that this actually pays out. And I do the same thing with YouTube. So.
That makes sense. That's a really good technique. Yeah, I like that thinking out of the box technique. I try to do things like that myself, as I'm sure you've heard on the EntreProgrammers.
Yes,
but a lot of people it's amazing how many. I mean, just this morning I got. I'm going to be doing a video chat with Dan Martell, who just sold Clarity, and I just started reaching out to him on Facebook, started following his stuff. I noticed his videos on YouTube didn't have very many comments and followers. And so I started just contacting him and complimenting on the thing, and then pretty soon he noticed me because when you're starting a blog or something, right? And no one's sort of paying attention when you're first starting out in that space, and so then. And this happened before Clarity just got announced to be sold. But then he emailed me out of the blue this morning. It's like, hey, yeah, let's do a video chat. But it's interesting. Like you can reach so many different people. Just this week, also, I just met with Matt Fury last week, who's a really famous internet marketer and martial artist dude, and he happens to live in my area, and I use a similar technique. One thing that I had used with this one, which is an interesting one as well, is if you want to get in contact with someone, buy their product, and then immediately email them right after you buy their product. Because I don't know about you, but I like when a sale comes in for my product, I check it, right? I look at it and I notice that person, and then if I see an email from them immediately, I have to respond to that email because it could be customer satisfaction. I don't want them to refund, right? You know, they just bought my thing. That's your prime time to contact someone is right after that you bought. So
and even if you sell your product on Amazon, the way you would do that is after you write the review for that product and you have your name, you know, so because they don't get necessarily notified who bought it. So, but yeah, that's a great idea. I'm going to actually maybe use that. We'll see.
I love that approach. That what you outlined there about using interviews. That's like it's almost a way to do cold calling without doing cold calling because you're bypassing all the gatekeepers. You're getting right. You're getting right to your, and it gives you. It's hard. Like you always want to make these types of things a win-win, and it's tough to come up with, you know, what can I give this person? I don't know them that well. I don't know their business. Like, what could I offer them? But if you are offering them basically free publicity, that's a great in. And I used to be a journalist, so I'm going to be stealing your technique as well. That would work really well for getting copywriting gigs.
And there was one article I wrote for the interior design firm where the owner emailed me after he'd read it, and he was just like, that was the most amazing thing I've read on my company. I was like, he's like, this is incredible, because I didn't make it dry. I really did. I made it very creative, and I'll forward it to you, Josh, because I know
I'd love to see that.
And you'll be interested. Like, I used a lot of analogies. I brought in nature and biology to explain how this interior design firm works, and he just thought it was, you know, you get certain vibes when you meet somebody in real life where you're like, what type of topics is this person going to be interested in, right? And so, and so that's what I did, and he loved it. And again, I don't want to like beat it to the ground, but I'll send that to you.
That would be awesome. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, there's a bigger, I mean, the whole concept, like, there's a real good story in how to win friends and influence people where he talks about, going to try to meet this CEO. I might have even talked about it on this podcast, but it's worth repeating. This guy wants to talk to this CEO of this really large company about like getting some of his Boy Scouts, paid for trips to Europe to go, and he goes in and has a meeting, or he gets like 5 minutes of the guy's time. The guy doesn't even really care, but he overheard in the conversation there's this big CEO guy talking to his secretary and saying, "Hey, did you get any new stamps? My boy's collecting stamps, right?" And and she said, "No, we didn't have anything new," and he was disappointed, right? And so this guy like clicked in his head, right? And then so he realized that his company had a whole bunch of international stamps and stuff. So he came back the next day and he asked to see the guy again, and this time he said, "Tell him I have some stamps for his boy." And then that was like the total, right? The dude just spent like an hour of his time talking to him about stamps, and then afterwards, he said, "Now what can I do for you?" And he was, it was a totally different, but just like thinking about, of what in terms of what the other person wants, right? And that's what you did, like with the interviews. It makes a lot of sense. Or like if someone has a book coming out, right? Then they're totally primed for getting media or press on that. So anytime you can like figure out, because we always think about what we want when we try to like contact a famous person or someone that can help us out. But when you think, there's always, even the most famous person, there's something possibly that you could provide them that they would want if you spend the time to think about it.
I've been trying to think of something that David Hannemeyer Hansen would want, but being his persona, I'm almost afraid to even reach out to him. So I got him to respond to me once on Twitter by criticizing someone else, and then he basically was like, "Yeah, I hate that person too."
So I can tell you, we had him on Ruby Rogues, and the way that came about was I was at RailsConf, and I did something crazy. I saw him sitting there next to an empty chair, and I went and sat in that chair.
Nice.
And I talked to him for a few minutes. I mean, I didn't really have much to talk to him about, dude, Rails. kind of thing. It was like, yeah, I've got this podcast that myself and a few other folks put together. Would you like to come on it? And just being there in person and having chatted for just a minute or two was enough. Where he kind of looked at me funny for a minute and said, "Okay," and so we worked it out. And that was episode like 50 or something, so it was pretty early on in Ruby Rogues. I mean, we were fairly established, but it was just having the gumption to go up and sit down and
Did you say we're the #1 Ruby podcast in the world?
I don't know if we were at that point.
Really?
But yeah, it is interesting. I mean, you'd be surprised how many people would, especially when you do the interview thing, because I mean, like I know I probably will regret saying this now, but like pretty much anyone who contacts me to be on their podcast, as long as they have like 10 episodes or so, or it doesn't look like it's some kind of like pyramid scheme. Then even if it's a good pyramid scheme, I'll even do that. So
if you're getting in on the higher levels,
he's not picky. He's been on 3 of my shows.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, I think a lot of people don't even realize that. Like it's something that most people would like to get free press, even if it's small. And it's really hard to judge. You don't know how big someone's thing is. So it's
right.
It's a real good way. Who's really good at this is that App Masters guy, Steve Young.
Yeah.
Well, like when you look at, I was just looking at Interviewed.io and looking at who he's had on there, and he's had David Lawrence, which is a professional. He's a professional actor. If you look at his picture, you'll recognize him from a bunch of movies. But he had like Andrew Warner from Mixergy on there, and he did have Dan Martell on there, and he's had like a bunch of really like high-profile guests that you wouldn't have expected that he would have access to, and that's growing his network to a huge degree by having contact with these people, and they're promoting his stuff. So
one other thing that I found that really helps out is if you pay attention to these folks, they are going to come to a point where they are more susceptible to coming onto a podcast or something because they want the publicity. For example, we had Noel Rappin come on Ruby Rogues to talk about testing. Why? Because he had just released Rails 4 test prescriptions on CrackProg. John is very eager to get on podcasts because he just released Soft Skills.
Exactly. Yeah.
And other folks, if they're releasing a product or trying to promote an event or some other thing, then they need to be out in front of people, and that's the time to really strike because the iron's hot. And if you can guarantee that you can get them in front of even a couple hundred people, even 100 people, a couple dozen people, if they're the right people, then they're all over that.
Yep.
Agree.
And you can always ship them Pears too, so that's if all else fails, you just
ship them some Pears.
Oh, the Pears didn't work. Here's some ham and pears.
Yes.
Although it hasn't worked with Pat Flynn so far, I'm still trying to get. But I'm emailing him like every 2 weeks now, so I don't know if I'm getting past the filter or not. So
well, let me see if I can find this really quickly. But
you've been put into the stalker profile.
Yeah. I basically like email and I'm like, there's 2 ways to make me go away. One is to like do what I want.
You are definitely in the stalker profile.
And the other way is to just tell me like that, just to go away. And most people do not. I've never had someone tell me to go away, right? So like, because you gotta have some, the human decency level. Like you never want to just tell someone to go away. So.
All right.
John likes to take advantage of people's basic decency.
Yeah.
So I put a link in the chat. It's a YouTube video. We'll make sure it gets in the show notes. But it's by Christina Cantors.
Nice.
And what she did is she made up a rap song about Pat Flynn, asking him to come on her podcast. And he immediately replied and said,
"Oh my
yes,
gosh,
I will come on your show."
Wow.
And so she gave a talk about this at the Podcaster Summit last week.
Nice.
And it's kind of just this crazy idea. I mean, how could he say no to that? It's on YouTube.
Right.
People are talking about it. So yeah, it's like, yeah, no doubt, I'm gonna go on the show.
Yeah. And yeah, I take notes too from people who bug the hell out of me, right? Because there's like I'm like, okay, what did this person do? Because I'm obviously replying to them now, and I'm like, so I'm like, okay, well they emailed me like 15 times, and they're kind of crazy, but hell, what have I got to lose? I might as well like talk to them now at this point. So yeah.
Yeah, I like this tactic though because it's hey, I'm going to get everybody to talk about how I asked Pat Flynn to come on my show.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, so there's a little bit of social pressure there.
Derek.
Yes. Sorry, I was watching that rap video.
Oh, okay.
It's pretty funny, but it's awesome.
We have like a content lull here while everyone watches the rap video.
I've already seen it. I actually talked to Christina this week for like 45 minutes, and
Nice.
you know, she gave me a whole bunch of ideas about things that I should be doing. So anyway, it's really interesting, and just finding that creative outlet is awesome.
Chuck, in your case, you can just cover Taylor Swift songs.
Yes.
So we're all good.
Speaking of songs, who's got iTunes? Did we get
Zero new reviews in iTunes. I'm disappointed. I think it was Josh mentioned that people may have been interpreting that as a threat. So
Yes.
I will threaten to sing "Let It Go" if y'all don't give us any reviews.
Okay, yeah, we'll try. Hey, we're A/B testing this. Okay, so now Derek will sing it. Yeah, if we don't get 10. So if you want to save your again, appealing to human decency, right? I'm going to take advantage of your basic human decency of not hurting your other EntreProgrammer listeners. Yes. So you can take one for the team. Just leave a review on iTunes, and then Derek won't sing. Otherwise, maybe we'll just give him like a 15-minute solo or something like that. So.
Man,
how about a preview of the reindeer song?
The reindeer song?
Reindeers are better than people.
That one.
And don't you think that's true? Yeah, people will beat you and curse you and cheat you. Every one of them's bad, except you. Oh, thanks, baby.
Derek can hold a tune pretty good.
But people smell better than reindeer. And don't you think that's right? That's once again true for all except you. You got me. Let's call it a night. Don't let the frost bite.
So Jacob.
Yes.
I think we need to doctor it up because it was.
Do we kiss now?
It was decent. We need to get a like a soundboard with cats fighting or something.
Yes.
So Jacob, so Wild Academy, is that about 3D modeling as well? Are you teaching 3D modeling, or what is that all about?
The main focus is programming. I teach Ruby. The most popular series is Ruby programming, and yes, it's funny because I actually linked to the Ruby Rogues within those videos, so I've sent some people that way. I made a series on SketchUp like 2 months ago, and it just took off because the SketchUp company actually shared it with everybody. And so that got a lot of initial push right at the beginning, and so the growth curve on that is just through the roof. And I only have 8 videos in that series, and now every month it's getting more than my Ruby series, which has 34 videos, I think.
Wow.
But kind of something I guess we can really talk about, and I talked about it a little bit on your blog, but some of the stuff I didn't mention, but I have talked about with Chuck before. And I don't know if Chuck wants to hear it again, but there's a couple of things.
Yes, please.
Okay. So there's a couple of, like I said at the beginning with YouTube, is that you really don't want to go for your one-hit wonders. And so what that means is trying to create a system where my Ruby tutorials, even though I uploaded the first one a year and almost a half ago, it gets more views today than it did a year ago. And the reason that it does that is because I'm continuously adding to the playlist that it is a part of. And so what happens is, and this is called a drip method, is what I've named this. And it's not something I originally was going to share, but I don't care anymore. So what you do is you upload a video on a playlist, and then every week or every month you want to make sure to add a video to that playlist, because search on YouTube, you can search by uploaded this month. And so when somebody does Ruby programming, already that video that you uploaded is going to be towards that top of that search, just a regular search. But then even if they filter through, if they say, how about just this week? Because I want the newest content, right? Because it's a technology. And so when they search for like anything uploaded this month, that video that I uploaded this month will show up. They'll click on it, and then they'll go back to day one, and then they'll go through the whole series. So I do that with all of my series. Now, there's another thing that you really have to pay close attention to is the language that YouTube uses when they're talking about what content they're going to favor. But they don't tell you specifically, but they do give you clues like, we're going to change the algorithm to try and promote longer watch times. And when you have a video that is 10 minutes long, you can place a mid-roll ad within that video. And so what that tells me is that YouTube is dangling a little treat, like, oh, come up to 10 minutes, come up to 10 minutes. And so that's what they want. So if you're going to upload any video, I would have it be 10 minutes long. If you want it to be a long form, sustained, especially if it's a tutorial, you want it to be 10 minutes long. And I actually made this mistake with my first PHP video. It's under 10 minutes, and it is not doing very well. My Ruby, my PHP videos are all over 10 minutes, and those are doing better. Because it doesn't, like, views don't matter at all. It's watch time. Your video will be at the top. Like, my Ruby video is at the top when you search for Ruby programming, because the video is longer versus you have like the New Boston, who has like a 3-minute or 4-minute video. So he has way more views than me, but his total watch time is lower. So his videos are below mine. And that's something that still people today don't quite understand. And so I'm actually redoing my PHP series because I didn't get that first video up above 10 minutes, and I think that it's caused it so that it's not taking off as quickly as the others. And I would even recommend doing 20 minutes because my SketchUp videos that have just been killing it, that one is like 21 minutes long, the first one, and then every one after that is just 10 minutes.
That makes a lot of sense. And that's why, like, all of a sudden, like in the since YouTube changed that algorithm, the biggest YouTube channels are video game channels where you watch someone play a video game and comment on that, right? And that's because the watch time, because those videos are like half an hour to an hour long, and people sit there and watch that whole thing. So that's that's caused them to. I mean, that PewDiePie guy, right? He's like making like
PewDiePie.
million. Yeah, PewDiePie. He's making like $10 million a year off of YouTube, off of his videos, like one video a week or 2 videos.
You know what's funny though? I look at his stats and then I hear he makes 10 million, and I think to myself, yeah, I'd probably do 20 if I had if I had those amount of viewers. But that's probably my attitude. That's why I don't have that many viewers. But yeah, like he is not optimizing like revenue-wise. He is optimizing for like fans loving him, which is smart. But like I look at it from a business perspective, and I think, man, there's so much opportunity still for him. And I know there's a certain point where it's like, yeah, I make 10 million a year. Like, do I need to stress over making another 2?
Right. Love you, bros.
Yeah. Out. Actually, there's a really funny video of his called "The Story of a YouTube Commenter." Oh, that's very good. It's very good. Watch that.
I can only imagine.
It's not a gaming video on that. It's actually he's making fun of like people who spam in the comment sections, and it's got like 4 million views. So.
Yeah, I've been trying to grow my my channel. I've got almost 3,000 subscribers now, but my goal for the end of the year is to hit up to 10,000. So I've got some ideas. Like one of them I wanted to do. In fact, I have it on my list to reach out to you to do some kind of cross promotion with you, since you have a bigger channel.
Okay.
But to figure out like people that have bigger channels or similar sized channels as me, and in the same kind of category, that would be my general audience, and then do promotion, like either do a video for them and have them do one for me, type of our interviews or something like that, and then mention follow or subscribe, and I've seen some of the bigger channels do that, but I think that's probably a good way to grow your subscriber base. What do you think about that?
I think that the subscriber metric it doesn't matter.
Really? Okay.
It doesn't affect anything because of subscriber burnout. Have you ever heard of game theory?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yep.
He has a video called "Yes, PewDiePie, YouTube is Broken," and that goes into the details of it explains subscriber burnout, which I already know is happening with mine, and I every video I upload, I know that my subscribers aren't going to watch, because if you subscribe to my channel for Ruby, you're not necessarily caring about watching my PHP videos, right?
Right.
So I think they should get rid of the subscriber metric, because it truly, it is deceptive, right? Because you can have somebody who has 1 million subscribers, but their monthly views on their videos could be only 50,000.
That's a good point. Yeah, that's true.
View times is all that matters, because it's the only thing that you can really sell. Like, you can't say I have 1 million subscribers, therefore give me money, because somehow your sponsor message will get to those 1 million subscribers. And it's not the case. So I have 7,000 subscribers, but when I upload a new video, it only gets about 50 views right off the bat. It is the tail that gives you all of these views. It is the old content that pushes me forward. And so when I talk to sponsors, I don't even bring up the subscriber amount, because it's disingenuous for me to pretend as though that even matters.
It's the same thing with podcasts as well. You hear everybody talk about, oh, I've got 50,000 subscribers to my podcast, to my RSS feed. Well, yeah, that's nice, but how many listens do your episodes get?
Mm-hmm.
We have 734 subscribers for the last 30 days on EntreProgrammers right now. We have a total of 56,000 listens, and we have in the last week, 3,000 listens. But those are the wrong numbers to tell sponsors. What we need to tell sponsors is the 6-week average, which is the average life of a podcast episode. And right now, our 6-week average is sitting at around 1,100. That's the number that sponsors need to know, because that's the number of people that their message is going to get put in front of.
Exactly.
It's also the engagement level too, right?
Right.
Which is something that's really, really hard to. But like for example, our podcast is a really good example of this, right? We have super, super engaged listeners. If you're sitting here listening to us for 2 hours talk about, if you're not
first of all, we're sorry.
Yes.
Right. Then you are really, really probably a big fan of the show. I mean, first by virtue of the fact that we're in your ear hole for 2 hours, a week. And second, by there's a very clear drop-off point. Like, right, you either like this or you don't. And so, so I think that's another example too. And that one's so hard to judge. But you can know by the show, by the content, more so. But I guess it's something that's harder to really figure out, because some people have really big I mean, people always say this with Twitter, right? They say, okay, well, you have 100,000 followers on Twitter. But if you tweet something, like how many people respond, but you could have 5,000 followers and they're all super big fans. So I don't think there's a huge way to tell that for I guess maybe it's like looking at comments and thumbs up on YouTube to see what that engagement level is. But
yeah, you look at Twitter has their stats for your tweets now. If you go to ads.twitter.com, you can log in and see all the different stats about your tweets and see what kind of engagement you're really getting on a daily and weekly and even per tweet basis.
Yeah.
And so it's those kinds of stats that are more important. It's not the follower count. It's not the subscriber count. It's not those raw numbers like that. It's the engagement level, and the engagement comes out in the other stats, the more important stats.
Yeah. Well, and another good example is like Josh's affiliate link for the contest, the AppSumo contest giveaway. He's getting like 49% conversion rate on that.
Well, 42.8 at the moment.
Okay, sorry, 42.8.
Still, it's like 10 times higher than anybody should ever be getting.
Almost 50% of the people that click on it buy.
Yeah.
That's insane. I mean, that, like, if you trace that back and say, okay, well, where's this? Wherever he's funneling these people are from, their engagement level is extremely high.
But it's because they've read a 5,500 word. It's the long form content. They've made it through a 5,500 word blog post, either on my site or on Pat Flynn's site, and they're clicking through, or they've made it through, a 6 or 7 day email series, and they're ready to buy it. I have a question. So, excuse me. I have a question. So, who should do YouTube and who shouldn't? Like, are there any businesses where you think it's just a really bad fit?
I'm not pretty enough for YouTube.
Neither am I, but I've got like 24 videos. They just don't show me.
I think anybody who is thinking that they should be on social media in any form, they should go to YouTube very first and foremost, because YouTube is, the analogy I use is, in social media, YouTube is a lake, right? But every other, like Twitter, all of that content is a river. This is a horrible analogy.
It makes sense to me.
I totally get it. Yeah.
So here's what I mean by that. When you create content for YouTube, you're filling your lake. You're making your lake bigger. Right. All of that water people have access to and can get to through search, because YouTube is the second largest search engine in the world. Also, Google promotes the YouTube videos through their search engine. And so if I make a post about YouTube, I post on YouTube, that content can be found a year or 2 years from now. If I make a post on Facebook or Twitter, it's gone tomorrow, and nobody's going to see it. So I think that anybody who thinks that they need to be on social media to promote their business, they should start on YouTube first, because they will start getting traffic, but they'll also get long-term traffic. They'll start getting followers, but they'll also get search as a benefit.
Yeah, no, that's a really good point. I think, and that's where that's why I'm doing 3 videos a week now, like 1 high quality and 2 lower quality, just to build that pool up to make it larger and larger. And I'm seeing more. Like I constantly look at my YouTube stats, and I look at, like, it shows you the 90-day. By default view, and I look to see what is the percentage growth in all those areas, and every single time that I look at those 90-day stats, it's like plus 30% in everything, in views and it's because of that pool, that long tail. It's almost like dollar cost averaging, right? In investing in the stock market or whatever. It's like that long tail and compounded interest is accruing over time. And that makes a lot of sense. That does make it a lot different. I mean, it's similar to a blog, right? To blog posts. You're again, that's another example of a pool versus a stream. So I think that's an interesting concept. Like, I actually really like that analogy. Like, to think about, is this thing a pool or a stream? And then you want to invest more in the pools than the streams, because those streams, they're fleeting. It's like
exactly.
We could go right back into the consulting versus building a product.
Well, that's actually what I really like about autoresponders, and even Edgar, right? Like, you're building with Edgar. You are building a pool now. You're kind of shooting water into the stream from your pool. I don't know, like.
So since I started using Edgar, I've had the monthly traffic on DerekBailey.com shoot from 9,500 sessions to 16,000 sessions. I mean, that's almost a 100% increase. It's getting dang close to that.
Yeah, and it's great because it compounds, because you're going to be you're adding Twitter followers by doing that. And then those people, next time that those tweets come around, those people will see them, and it just compounds over time.
Also, another point I would add is that there's revenue sharing on YouTube. So there's already an automatic way to monetize, and YouTube has the creator in mind. They actually are like, okay, let's give some, if you upload a video to Facebook, they take all the revenue, ad revenue.
Right.
So that's why I don't want to be there, because I try and tell people that if you post something on Facebook, it's a blog. It's a blog post. And all Facebook is a micro blog that all of these people are blogging on, and nobody's getting paid for it. And they've rebranded it into a social network. Well, the internet was a social network to begin with. You know what I mean? Except for your pages you actually owned if you own your own website. And so I know people who have a following on Facebook, but they can't monetize anything, right? They can't decide where to put ads. If they do put any links into their content, then now Facebook is like, oh, that you have to pay to promote that in order to have your fans that you built up ever see your content, which is insanity that people don't, like, there should be no content, in my personal opinion, there should be no content creators on Facebook. And I know people will argue with me like, oh no, I've made so much money and all this, but it's like, okay, but you've also not built up your email list because you said, oh, I've got all these followers on Facebook, I don't need to worry about a following. You've also made it so that you are beholden to all of Facebook's rules, and that means, like their new rule where it says people will be able to mark whether something is adsy. I don't even know what that means. Like, oh, this is adsy, so now if you want anybody to see it, you have to pay. So it is insane to me that that any content creators don't see that dichotomy that's being created there. So.
Right. Yeah. It's well, for me, Facebook and Twitter are they're not, and YouTube too. Like they're good input stream into something like an email list. And if you're not using it that way, yeah, you're making a big mistake. But like I've been able to use Twitter very effectively to grow my email lists with very little effort. So they're good places to kind of reach out to people. But if that's all you're doing, then you're at the mercy of Twitter.
You're funneling people back to your list and your products, versus a lot of people are just trying to build a following there. Yeah. And they're going to get the same thing where there's a subscriber burnout, where every tweet they tweet, only 1% of all of their following ever sees it. Mm-hmm. And that's like way worse than email. Email is a lot higher percentage open rate.
Yep.
So.
Mm-hmm.
You got me thinking.
Yeah. I really wish I would have started YouTube like a while back, because I've been pretty consistent with YouTube for a little over a year and a half, I think. Mm-hmm. But man, if I would have started that a few years back before then, it could have really been. I mean, I'd be obviously I'm going to keep doing it, but there's that. It feels just like like what I think about compounding interest. That's the thing that keeps going through my head. It's like that's what YouTube feels like, is that same exact type of system.
Well, so let me ask you a couple questions about what I'm trying to do with it now. So based on stuff that Josh and John and Chuck have suggested to me, I'm putting together more YouTube videos on a regular basis now. It's not like every week I'm doing something like John is, but whenever somebody has a good question on JavaScript, it's a short question, a simple answer, but it's something that can be demonstrated really easily in a screencast. I'm recording these 4 or 5 minute things and putting them up on YouTube. And right now I have about 300 subscribers, a little over 300 subscribers, and about 45,000, little over 40,000 views total. And I want to expand that to make YouTube a more active funnel for people to find me and find my videos, and hopefully, eventually, either buy some of my screencasts from Watch Me Code, or become a subscriber, or at least get on my email list. So, given all of that, given what I'm trying to do with that, what kind of advice would you give to me in this situation? Am I doing the right things? Am I putting the right content in the right place, or should I be doing something else?
Okay, so I would focus, when you're just starting out, you have to hit all of your optimization perfectly. Okay. You have to do tagging. You have to do descriptions. And this is something I talked with Chuck about, like the EntreProgrammer videos. You need to not call it EntreProgrammers as the first word in your title.
Okay.
Questions that get answered in this video, that needs to be the question, the title of the question.
Yeah.
Like how to start on YouTube. That needs to be the name of this video, because you're going to get most of my traffic comes from search. Majority of it comes from search. It doesn't come from my social networks, and it doesn't come from like people like linking to it or referring to it. It is just people going on YouTube and looking for these things.
Okay.
So that's what I would do. Make sure your titles have some sort of a question in them, and worry about branding down in your tags. Now, I use a trick, and Chuck's trying to figure out what my keywords are. But
I haven't even tried. I haven't had time. But yeah.
Okay, good. So when somebody watches one of my videos, you'll see the suggested videos on the side, the right. Like 90% of them are my other videos.
Right.
And how I do that is I create 2 words that are made-up words that nobody will ever use as a keyword in their other videos, and I'll put those as my keywords, my first 2 keywords in all of my videos.
Oh, interesting.
That's interesting.
Because to me,
nice.
Anytime anybody comes to me, I'm not looking for like a million people to get 1 view out of. I am looking for 200,000 people to get 5 views out of.
Right.
Yeah.
That's more valuable to me. You have to get as many views out of each individual as possible. So the other thing I would do is at the end of your videos, your current, even your existing ones, you want to put an annotation that's at the bottom right-hand corner of the video that is the next question or like the next video, right?
Okay.
And so that way, when you're watching, and when you're watching the video about, I think you do stuff on like basic programming stuff, right? Like like business-wise stuff. Ask the question in an annotation towards the end of the video when there's like 10 seconds left, the next like related question. That way when somebody's watching, instead of them clicking and going somewhere else, they'll be like, oh yeah, I'm going to click on that annotation. Annotations are huge. I can show you my stats for like, because my Ruby videos are like day 1, day 2, day 3, day 4. As soon as I put in annotations to say next day, day 2, my views took off, and also just made it easier for the user. Plus, also the associated videos on the right-hand side said viewers who watch this also watch this. Those were now better associated.
Right.
And so those are definitely 2 things I would really focus on.
Okay.
Can I ask a question about
like 5 things, but.
So I tried to add annotations, and you can only link to specific types of things in the annotations, right?
Yes.
No, actually, you can link to whatever you want. If you register your domain, right, your website, and then you use pretty links.
Yes, you can do that, and I keep getting a little pop-up saying, apply for external annotations. The reason I don't want to do that is I am suspicious that YouTube won't promote my videos as much if they know that I'm promoting something off of YouTube. And I know this is all just like everything is just conjecture for me, but I think I put myself in YouTube's shoes, and I say, if there's 2 Ruby videos, there's one that's okay, or let's say there's 2 Ruby videos and one is equally as good. One has external annotations in it, and the other doesn't. I think that YouTube would put, and I don't know how sophisticated their search algorithms are, like 100%. I know them a little bit. But I don't think that it is a good idea to have external annotations in your videos, especially if you have a product to sell. But it's so much easier to just have an annotation come up at the bottom that pops up and says, get Ruby for free, the Ruby book for free down below in the video description. And that's what I do, and I have had over 1,500 referrals in the last 5 weeks to my Ruby book on Amazon. So.
That's a good point. Yeah, because if you can, people look at the description. I put all my links in the description now as well, but yeah, that's interesting. Maybe it's better to just have the annotation there and then. I'm not sure though. I don't know if their algorithm is taking into account the external annotations or not.
Given that it's Google, I would I would be surprised if they don't.
True. I mean, I still get, I have, well, I guess I don't use it too much. I'd have to look at my videos and see which ones have external annotations and how much, of the viewer percentage is coming from search on YouTube. I get about 50% of my views from YouTube search is what it is, and about the other 50% from other methods of promotion.
Okay.
But
interesting.
I'm still wondering though. So I managed to enable external annotations because for some of the things like the sponsors and stuff, I kind of do want to see. I kind of want to test it and see. Okay, these are definitely being promoted less than the other ones or something.
Right.
But so once you have that enabled, then how do you? Is it merch that I'm after? A merch URL?
No.
There's some things I could talk about, but
anyway, we can figure it out later.
Yeah, I have my exact numbers for my Ruby book, which is $4.99. Per click to that book, I'm averaging about 20 cents in revenue. So after people go to that book and the amount of people who purchase it at the price that it's listed at, I'm making 20 cents per click. Now that's not as high as some sponsors. So I am sacrificing, like I have a sponsor.
One.
What's that?
Oh, I lost everyone for a minute. Okay. I don't know if everyone's frozen for me except for you.
No. I could still hear everyone.
I think we're all good. So
that was just John.
So these links down below in the description are worth $5 to $10 per click, and advertisers are going to start figuring that out because my performance when I refer people to a product is astronomically higher than Google AdWords, and because I'm a trusted individual. But the other thing is that and AdWords do go up to like $5 per click in certain industries and higher, and so
$100 a click.
What?
Yeah, for like trial attorneys, accident attorneys, that sort of thing.
Nice.
Yeah, you can be paying $50, $80, $100 a click.
Wow.
Yeah. And so if you have a product, like this is the thing, like I could promote somebody's $300 product that has like a very good close rate, and it might be easier for me to do that than make my own $100 product, right?
Yep.
And so figuring out those numbers is going to be a big deal. Like, but I just got I have two companies that are fighting over me as a sponsor, and I don't think the right word is fighting. They're basically both willing to pay the same, but I'm choosing the better company. So I hope I didn't just hurt some people's feelings when they see this. But
the better company in the context of what's going on right now with your YouTube channel and the world in general.
Yes.
Not better overall.
Right. Right. Just for me personally.
Yeah, exactly. At this time. Hey, John Sonmez here. Just want to take a second to tell you about a tool that I am really excited about. I've recently switched all of my email marketing over to a tool called Drip, and I couldn't be happier. I created a course, an email course, about how to create a blog that boosts your career, and so far I've gotten a ton of signups from it, way more than I expected. Not only that, but the engagement level of the people that are signing up is huge, and then at the end of the course, I'm getting big conversion rates, which is something that I really need in order to sell my products, and this is something that's extremely helpful to any entrepreneur, EntreProgrammer out there. The reason why Drip works so well is because it's specifically built for bootstrappers. It's email marketing for bootstrappers, and this is really why I switched over and why I'm finding it so effective. If you want to get started with Drip, you can get started today. Just go to gettrip.com/EntreProgrammers. Once again, that's getdrip.com/EntreProgrammers. And when you sign up, you can get an email mini course created for you. They'll actually do this for you. So if you're not sure how to do this, if you have a few blog posts or an ebook, they can get that started for you, which makes it super simple, and you can start getting those benefits today and not tomorrow. They also have all the kind of marketing automation rules that you would want, tagging, much better than a lot of the other major automation players, and they integrate with things like Stripe, PayPal, Leadpages, Chargeify, Gumroad, tons of great features in there. So I highly recommend that you check it out. Go to getdrip.com/EntreProgrammers. Take care.
This episode of the EntreProgrammers is brought to you in part by Telerik and the Telerik App Builder. Are you looking to launch your own startup in the mobile arena? Then definitely check out the Telerik App Builder. With the Telerik App Builder, you can create beautiful cross-platform and mobile applications for iOS, Android, and Windows Phone using a hyper-productive development environment. And let me tell you, the first time I used this app builder, I was blown away by how great it was. It's a really easy-to-use IDE. It's everything that you need in order to get an application built to run cross-platform. And the best part is, you can do it all from your browser or from an IDE like Visual Studio. So check it out today at telerik.com/appbuilder.
There's a battle that's kind of going on for online education between a lot of these bigger players, and it's really interesting to watch how much people are willing to spend. I think it's worth it. I think it's worth what they're willing to spend, because whoever comes out on top is going to just make a crazy amount of money. So. But I kind of saw that coming when Khan Academy came around. I knew that they were going to go for more basic stuff, but they're basically raising a generation of people who are going to be learning stuff online.
Yeah.
And so programming is a logical step. I'll tell you more about that off air.
It's interesting too, like the debate between like creating your own product or doing an affiliate program for someone else's. I would say that it can. I mean, there's definitely different situations, but it could also go into that whole idea of a pool versus a stream as well, because when you create your own product, it has a longer tail. Someone may, you're getting more exposure to you and your stuff. It's not just buying the product once and you're making a single monetary transaction. If someone likes your product, right, they're going to come back for more stuff. They're going to go back to your blog. They're going to go buy other products from you. So there's a little bit of more of it than just the monetary transaction there, I think.
Right. I would say that the affiliates and the ads and all that is like short term, make enough money so that you have the time to make a product or service or something that can be long term. So I mean, Pat Flynn does this, right? So he has sponsors, but then he makes the smart podcast player on the side. Google does this, right? I mean, they make products. Well, they don't really sell their products, but they will, if enough people search for a certain tool, Google will eventually come out with their own. So, but first they'll collect a bunch of money from the maker of that tool in order to refer people to that product. So it's pretty clever.
Cool. So should we go around the table a bit and talk about what's going on in everyone's weeks?
Yeah, absolutely.
Sure. All right, you get to start then.
Who? Who gets to start?
Chuck.
I get to start.
Volunteered yourself.
Tell us about JS Remote Conf.
JS Remote Conf. Success. I have to say, it's funny because I've been listening to the past EntreProgrammers. It's like reading the book and knowing how it ends. But, so it's funny because it's like pre-Josh being super into copywriting, and Derek is still talking about Watch Me Code and Signal Leaf, and I'm getting way more crazy health and financial advice from John than I ever thought about. But
nice.
It's really interesting. Anyway, so it's been a super success. I think overall it brought in a little over $16,000. I don't have any problem like saying how it did. We've had about 100 to 130 attendees. The first night was very well attended, and then I think some people figured out I'm in Europe. This is in the middle of the night, and he's posting the videos before I get up in the morning.
Right.
So we had maybe 20 people, drop off after the first night.
What's the format again? Are you doing like Hangouts, like type of thing, or?
No, I actually decided to go with a software solution called Click Webinar.
Okay.
And the reasons were, and this actually answers. So I had one person email me and say, "I'm really disappointed in the conference," and then everybody else was like, "Woo, JS Remote Conf." So anyway.
What was that disappointment?
So mainly, I think he had really, really high expectations that I didn't meet, but I don't know exactly what I should have done differently to meet them. He said that Hack Summit was run much better, but I didn't hear about Hack Summit until the last day of the conference. Mm-hmm. So I really had no context for that.
Wait a minute. He compared it to Hack Summit?
Yeah.
Did you see the speaker list for Hack Summit?
Nope.
Okay, it was like, go look at it now. Like, it's not a fair comparison at all. And these guys have a huge, huge budget.
Anyway, so
you had a lower production quality than the Super Bowl.
Okay.
So anyway, so the software I picked, it's Click Webinar. It does run in Flash, which doesn't excite me, but overall, the way it's set up, it allows the presenters to actually see the chat room while they're doing their presentations, unless they're sharing their screen and doing full screen slides. Which on Hack Summit, I know that they used Google Hangout, so that was their only option. They had to share the screen and go full screen. So I felt like the interaction was better. It also has a feature where if you click the button to raise your hand, then I can actually enable your voice. You can just talk to the speaker to ask your question. Nice. And then overall, it does all of the screen recording and everything else automatically, which Google Hangouts on air does. But anyway, so it all worked out really nicely that way. And one of the speakers actually was able to. One of the other things you can do is you can queue up YouTube videos. So he had done YouTube videos of the robots he built, and then put them on. And so we watched the little car drive around, which was really cool. So overall, I was super happy with that. I'm getting terrific feedback from folks, and I also learned a lot as far as okay, here are the things that I can communicate about better. Because I talked to a lot of my friends who organize conferences, and they said, yeah, these are the issues we face, but they're different issues when they're online.
Yeah,
is what I figured out. I mean, some of the issues are the same, but a lot of them are just a bit different because with the in-person conferences, they buy the ticket, you send them the receipt, and then they show up.
Right.
And with me, I have to continually communicate with them to make sure that they're able to connect, they're able to get things in, blah, 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 blah. We did have a little bit of AV issues with one or two of the speakers during the talk, but mostly it had to do with their internet connection as opposed to anything else. So,
Chuck, you're sympathetic to that, right?
Yeah. So anyway, nobody seemed really bothered about it except for one person, and so I'm counting it a success. And I was really upset the first night when I got that email, but after going back and getting all the videos and stuff up and getting more feedback from people, I am pretty happy with it. So,
nice.
If you have 100+ people, you're going to have one person like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
yeah, there were 200. There were about 200 people that registered for individual tickets, and then 4 groups registered.
Nice.
Nice.
And so. I'm pretty sure that a fair majority the other portion of those people are just going to watch the videos. They paid for early access to the videos.
You know what you should do? You should package up those videos after the conference is over, and then sell them.
Definitely. You should send them. You should personally offer them to the guy who is disappointed at full price.
Right. I'm so sorry that you didn't like this. Here, I'll sell you the videos for the things that you didn't want to watch.
Yeah, well, I will say that he was one of the 4 groups. And so that was the other criticism was, what did I pay for? Because I got the same access that the single attendees got. And I basically said, you paid so that you could put it up on a projector and invite whoever you wanted. That's what you paid for.
Right.
So anyway, but yeah, I don't know if I'm going to do groups again next time. I didn't get a lot of... I have one group that's super enthusiastic. I've gotten mostly positive feedback from the other two groups, and then I got negative feedback from him.
Right.
But overall, it's been a little bit more painful to deal with those, so I just don't know.
Yeah, maybe next year you could do, or next time, whenever that is, you could do, like, if you want to do a group thing, email me and we'll talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
That's true, yeah.
So, yeah, I'm a little bit torn as far as whether or not to sell the videos. I kind of want to do what the other conferences do and eventually just release them on YouTube.
As advertisement for the next year. Yeah.
That's exactly what I'm looking at doing. So
you might be able to do a combination of the both by releasing some of the videos or portions or something. I don't know.
What I may do is I may just put them up and then just say, look, if you want to just download them, then you have to pay for, essentially you're going to pay to put a little bit in my pocket and you're going to pay a little bit to cover bandwidth and what have you.
That's a good idea. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
And so they'll be exceptionally inexpensive, which, I mean, the early bird tickets were $50, so it'll be less than that. But, then it's like, okay, you didn't get to attend live, you didn't get the experience, blah, 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 but here are the videos if you really want them. And the videos actually include the chat and everything else. It records the entire interface.
Nice.
So they can actually read the chat as it goes by.
Nice.
So
that reminded me, something you said earlier reminded me that if you're still going to do 2 parts, I know you talked about doing 1 part, but in your description for EntreProgrammers, the first part of the video, you should have a link down below in the description that takes them to the second part, but it takes them to the EntreProgrammers website, and then you embed the second part YouTube video on that page.
Yeah.
And that way they are there so that when they comment, they're commenting on EntreProgrammers, plus you'll have, like, sign up for this email newsletter pop up at that point.
Yeah.
So that's how I would do that. I would direct people to go to the part 2 on your site.
Right.
That's a good point.
You have to go back to your YouTube channel, find part 2, and then click on it.
Right, exactly.
On YouTube. So, in fact, what I would do is, even with how many listeners you have on iTunes and via podcast, I would maybe do like 10-minute, like Bill Maher does this, where it's called like overtime, where he'll have like 10 minutes extra on that you can get online that's not on the show, and that way you can start catching people coming to your site. So maybe that's something you might want to look at doing. Say, hey, we're going to talk about this, but go to our website to get the last 10 minutes overtime or whatever it is, and then there we can give something a little bit juicier, more
like
data-driven.
Derek singing over.
Right.
Every episode, Derek sings a song.
Yes.
But you have to get it
and it's all
web.
Disney musicals.
Yeah. Okay. I think we might even be a business out of that. So.
Yes.
DerekSongs.com.
That's right. I'm going to register right now.
It's like that I will draw you. I will draw you a cat.
So anyway, so my plan is I think I'm going to do at least another 1 or 2 of these kinds of conferences this year, and so when I announce those, I think I'm going to release these ones on YouTube, and then put the annotation on it that says, "Hey, we're doing the same thing for Ruby or whatever."
Nice.
Yeah.
And then I can also say, "Hey, we're doing a conference for Ruby, and if you want to get a feel for what it was like, go watch the videos from the JavaScript one." And so I kind of get both ends of that, and then I'll see if I can get some testimonials out of this conference for the next one. And I'm going to charge more.
Yep.
Sweet.
Yeah, I've still got to give my talk, which on the 12th, I think.
Yep. So. Yeah, so this will go out just in time for people to buy a ticket and come see you talk.
All right.
Nice. So how long is it? Is it till next week? Or?
Yeah, so It's funny because I stole the conference format from the Podcaster Summit, and then I did it the 2 weeks after the Podcaster Summit. But yeah, so it's 2 hours a night, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, for for those 2 weeks. I'm not sure if I like the format or not. It really depends on how convenient it is for the attendees. But all the folks in Europe are kind of annoyed at the timing of it. So I may try and do it earlier in the day, go 4 hours, and then just do it 1 week or something like that.
Yeah.
So I'm going to see if I can solicit that kind of feedback from the attendees. I have them all on a mailing list. So I'm probably just going to, I don't know if I'm going to put together a survey or just send them an email and say, please reply. But
yeah, it'd be interesting because there's, like, you might, it could go either way, right? Because if you do it during the day, it might be you might get more people sign up if you give them a template to email their boss that's like, hey, can I attend this conference and get free, get training for cheap? Here's what an average conference costs, but I can do this virtual one, so you don't have to send me to Vegas to get drunk and buy hookers while I'm supposed to be learning about JavaScript. Instead, I'm gonna go to this.
I thought that was kind of the natural outcome of learning about JavaScript, but
that's learning about JavaScript. This.
Yeah.
But anyway, that might be an appeal, right? Because hey, I get to get paid, while I'm at work to listen to videos, to watch a conference. But it could also be that's not so popular. I don't know. To me, it seems like that would actually be a pretty good selling angle, at least on the U.S. And then you'd satisfy the U.K. and.
Given my history of working for very large corporations, that would probably backfire for all but the boutique shops.
You think so?
Yeah. Most corporations, even small to medium-sized corporations, will just freak out and say, are you crazy? You're going to be spending that time working. And they expect you to do that kind of stuff on your own time outside of work. It is very rare, in my experience, for a company to actually support you doing any real training during company time.
Well, wait a minute. All the entire conference scene, the entire physical conference scene, who pays for the tickets?
It's usually on weekends.
No.
Ones that I go to.
Yeah, I've done at my last job. I did 2 SharePoint trainings, including, funny story, one the week that I quit. I was literally at at home. We were doing remote training. It was all day for a week. It was SharePoint. Yeah. It was brutal. I spent a whole week doing this, and meanwhile I'm interviewing with Trackabout. every day, freaking out about interviews. And then I go back in the next Monday, and I had accepted the job, and I'm like, oh, I hate to do this, but that $3,000 she spent, yeah, it's gone. My boss was not happy.
Well, that's what I'm talking about. Is any conference, all the Microsoft conferences, the tech days, and all that stuff. Any conference that charges more than $1,000 a ticket or around that range, almost 95% of just pulling this statistic out of my just making this up, but trust me on this, 95% of those tickets are paid for by employers.
I have never been to a conference that cost more than $250, unless the conference was paying for me to be there so I could speak. Okay. I have never had a company willing to pay more than a couple $100 to send me somewhere for anything.
But you can't argue that they do. I mean, there are these big conferences, all of those Microsoft conferences that are $1,000 to get in, the Tech Days and all that stuff, right? Those are all. There's tons of attendees. There's thousands of attendees, and those guys are not footing the bill out of their own pocket. Is
that the target audience that Chuck has, though?
I don't know.
I would say that probably. I would say that probably 30 to 40% of the people that signed up for the conference needed a receipt or were paid for directly by their employer.
Right.
So, it's definitely something to be aware of and think about. So.
That format seems a little long and stretched out to me too.
Yeah,
speaking as someone who's not going to attend and is not in your target audience at all, but. Just as a data point, yeah, that feels for me. I want this type of thing to be more of an intensive short burst type of experience.
Well, it was kind of an experiment, so
yeah.
I'm definitely going to solicit feedback and just say, was it just the right length? Was it too much? Was it too little? Too long? Whatever, and just see if I can get that. That's one of a couple of things that I really want the feedback on. I also want feedback on the software we used, and I want feedback on kind of how we put things together. So.
And you didn't use any sponsorship for this, right? Or did you?
Nope, I didn't get any sponsors.
So there's a huge. I mean, you made pretty good money off of it for the time that you put into it without sponsors. With sponsors, you could really pump this thing up.
Yeah, that's what I feel like. But I think I kind of needed a proof of concept first.
Oh yeah, totally.
So I reached out to a few companies and I was like, "Are you even interested in sponsoring?" And I got a couple that were like, "We don't know," because it's not like anything else that they've sponsored in the past. So.
Right.
One thing Hack Summit did as well, which was really smart, because I'm actually a sponsor of Hack Summit, Simple Programmer. If you look on their website, like there's all these big companies and they're Simple Programmer. They offered sponsorships for people that promoted the conference. Also, different level of sponsorship, right? So obviously, people paid big money for big sponsorships, but that's another interesting concept. I thought, oh, that's kind of, you could get some of the kind of sponsors that would have big reaches, so you'll get more people to sign up, and all you really have to, you're just asking them to promote it, and then you're mentioning them, very small mention on their website, but.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's true. I'm also wondering a little bit about going back to the idea of selling the videos. Do I need to get releases from the speakers in order to do that?
Probably.
Technically, yes. Like you should build that into your into the next conference, so you have the option of doing that.
Right, and I don't think any of them would object to that. I'm also wondering. So this time I didn't pay any of the speakers. I'm probably going to send them something nice from Amazon or something. But I'd like to be Pears.
Yeah.
Pears for the win. But
Yes.
I'm thinking about next time, either offering them, I don't know. Should I be paying them? Should I worry about it, or should I? The other thing is I'm looking at either offering them the opportunity to reach out to all of the attendees with an email, and then just coach them on, look, you want to give something away and get them on your list.
That might be good. Do not pay them. I'll tell you this. As someone who is speaking at your event, I'm telling you, do not pay me, and I'll tell you why. Because the moment you bring up pay, right?
Right.
I mean, for my hourly rate, I charge $300 an hour, right? So if you bring up pay and you're like, hey, John, I'll pay you X amount of dollars, right? I'm going to run numbers in my head, and I'm going to say, this isn't worth my time. And there's a lot of people that you'd want to get to talk at your conferences that charge a lot more than I charge per hour, or make a lot more money than I make. And those people, if you bring up pay, you're going to just get them to turn you down. Whereas if it's not pay, if it's for just for exposure, for like if you keep money out of the equation, you're going to get those people. Whereas if you even broach the subject of money, all of a sudden it's going to be. I forget who used this example. I thought it might have been Nathan Barry talking about open source people, and he said that if you had someone who's working on open source, right? These are really skilled programmers that are working their day jobs, making huge amounts of money, but then some company approaches them and says, hey, can we pay you $50 an hour to build this feature into the open source project? And they're like, hell no, I'm not doing that. And it's kind of weird because they're working on it for free anyway, right? So, but the fact that you brought money into the equation just killed the deal. Like you could have gotten them to do it for free, but you can't get them to do it for pay unless you're willing to open up the the wallets and pay the big bucks. So I would definitely and the same thing goes with gifts or in terms of like some kind of exchange, like anything that someone can tie to a dollar amount. I've learned to not to do as a thing to give them, but something that can't be tied to a dollar amount would be, like you said, like the email list exposure, the non-tangible benefits. Even if you do have to, like, if you wanted to get someone who wasn't, who you couldn't afford to, the exception to that would be I'll donate X dollars to a charity of yours, right? This is for a charity, or make a charity component of it. Hack Summit did that, actually, that they played that card and got tons of, I mean, they got ridiculous speakers, like if you just look at their page. But anyway, that's what they did. Their play was the charity play. But yeah, I would definitely keep money out of the equation as much as possible.
Yeah, 100% agree with that. There is decades worth of research on motivation that says exactly what John just says, and it's keeping money out of it, offering something that is not directly tied to financial compensation is going to be a far more effective thing than offering people money to speak.
Mm-hmm. All right, I have one more question, and since we have Jake here, I'm going to aim some of this at him. And that is, and I'm going to change topics as well. I should also mention.
The timing on that was awesome.
I should also mention that I did get devboxclub.com up. So.
All right.
It's just a landing page. So.
Sorry. My pencil. What?
Anyway, so the next big thing is the Kickstarter campaign for Rails Clips, and what I would like to do is I'd like to do something similar to what John Lee Dumas has done on his free podcast course, where he basically has a podcast feed, and he just put out like 20 episodes, and that's all he's ever going to do. He's got the videos that he also has put together for that, which I'd like to put on YouTube. And then, he kind of drives people back to get on his mailing list, and then he gives them more information that way. So if I put together like a 20-video series on how to get started with Ruby on Rails, I'm trying to decide if I should just put that up all at once on YouTube and, use that to drive traffic to the Kickstarter campaign, and then, just like Jake said, drop a video into it, thereafter every month, or should I, just put up like the first 3 or 4 or 5 videos and then drop one in every month to give them the rest of the here's how you get started with Rails.
Yeah, I would do, like I said, I would do the first video 20 minutes long. Every video after that I would make 10 minutes and 1 second long, and I would probably just do 10 and upload all 10 of those all at once. Because the value here, this is the MPP I talked about, the multiple payouts. If you have at least 10, because you're going to have a huge drop-off, as people go along, right? You'll get a lot of views on your first video, and then it'll start to tail off. Once somebody gets past 10, they'll pretty much stay with you going forward.
Got it.
So just make sure you have those first 10, 20 minutes long, and then I would do basic like Rails tutorial getting started.
Yeah, I have to say I have no intention of doing basic stuff, or really basic stuff anyway, in the Rails clips. Rails clips, my audience is pretty well communicated that they don't have any interest in that. They're mostly interested in, the more intermediate to advanced stuff. So how do I use this gem to do its job, or how do I do this hard thing in Rails? So if I can focus on and serve those communities, then I can put the basic stuff on YouTube as kind of a marketing avenue in. And if I'm doing that, I mean I'm going to be repurposing a lot of the content anyway, because whatever I put into the video, I can put into the podcast feed, and I can also put into the mailing list as the next thing that comes out in the sequence.
Yep.
And so I can continually reuse all that work and reinforce, go by my video series.
Well, then I would do only five videos. If you're going for more intermediate, I wouldn't worry about uploading that many then, because
okay.
I have to think about this a little bit, because I really don't know. I guess you're going to be targeting your listeners and your email list, but you're not really concerned about getting anybody else using search, like new users.
Well, that's what the so what I'm hoping will happen is all this basic content is stuff that my current listeners already have and know, right?
Okay.
So what I'm actually aiming at then is getting that content out there so that they will go watch it, and then they will tell new people that this is the source to get them started, and then they'll go and sign up for Rails Clips after they get through enough of the basics to go, okay, now I need to know how to do authentication, or now I need to know how to build an API, or now I need to know how to do whatever else.
Is it Oddvi that has the RubyTop
Yeah.
I'm sure every subscriber he has would be interested, so package it and sell it, because they're all paying customers that he has.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously that's between you and him, but I'm sure there's some synergy you guys can create there. I don't know, because I don't I'm not in the more advanced Ruby on Rails community.
That's true.
I don't know.
I like the idea of cross promoting with Avdi.
Yeah.
One thing to watch is the gap between the beginner stuff and the intermediate stuff.
Uh-huh.
If it's not a really easy step between those two, then that's not going to work, I don't think, as a transition.
That's true.
So, if your intermediate stuff is pretty hardcore, I think this is a bit of a part of the struggle that Derek's having too. Is like, if your intermediate stuff is for people who've been doing it for 3 or 4 years, and know the ins and outs of the framework pretty well, and your beginner stuff, I mean, that's a pretty big gulf for people to jump.
Yeah, that's true. I have to say that I'm planning with the Kickstarter. I'm going to give stuff away, but you can go watch the video. I had a professional video done, and it's awesome. But anyway, so I'm thinking the first 6 to 8 videos are going to be some of the more, it's not like basic Rails, but it's basic setup stuff and common things that people use for, the semi-basic stuff. So if you've come out of a boot camp, this is kind of the next level of stuff that you'd pick up. Mm-hmm. And then I'm just going to go after, the video series that people are going to be supporting on Kickstarter is going to be how to build an API in Rails. And so it's going to be all the tools and tricks and how to test it and stuff like that. And but those first, I think I should do the first 10 videos, kind of bridge the rest of the gap so that people can come in and start working on their APIs and stuff. And then I can cover some other stuff after I get that series done, because that's what, like I said, that's what people are going to be supporting the Kickstarter campaign for.
I'm still not, well, I don't know. I mean, I still am not totally convinced that that the advanced stuff is even the intermediate
money maker.
Yeah, I mean, I know your audience is telling you this, but the statistics from my 55 Pluralsight courses will tell me that beginner is always the winner. Beginner is always the winner. I like it, but and then
if you look at their top courses, they're all introduction to whatever.
Yeah,
almost all.
There was a really good episode of .NET Rocks that had Uncle Bob on there just recently, and he was talking about the growth of the industry, and he was basically saying how there's not enough experienced devs, and the reason why is because in the next couple of years, the number of developers is going to double. Right, it's been doubling every 2 years in size, and so if you think about that, when it doubles, those are all beginners.
That's true.
And so that it's the percentage of experienced people in the dev community right now might be less than 10%, and then everyone else is a beginner within the first 1 to 3 years of development experience. So I'm not saying that you can't necessarily make money in an intermediate or advanced audience, but I also just did this coaching session with a guy that is selling Rails stuff, very complicated Rails stuff on how to build your own framework and stuff. And I mean, he's done okay with it, but he is really.
I know who that is.
Okay. Yeah, he painted himself into a corner a little bit, and we were kind of discussing that, and it's he's like, well, my audience is so super technical, they're never gonna, and it was yeah, that's you kind of paint yourself in the corner a little bit there. I mean, so I don't know. I would have it in your back pocket to plan B. I'd be okay, bam, I can whip out this go to the beginner road. But I mean, I could be totally wrong. It could just take off, and you could. Yeah, that's it. So. Yeah. But yeah, I could totally be wrong. But I don't know. I would have a plan B just to just in case, because you're going to invest a lot here, and it won't take a lot of extra investment to be ready with a plan B if you need to just go to the beginner content or offer that in addition.
Yeah, basically, where I'm coming out at is anything that is above the level of here are the basics of using the framework is fair game for Rails clips.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense then.
And so so then the rest of it's all in the tutorials that are already out there. So go buy this book or that book, or go watch my YouTube videos. And so I'm hoping that I can bring enough people up to where it's like, okay, I've learned Rails I've learned the basics of Rails from him for free on YouTube or on the podcast feed or in my email. So now I'm ready to go and, pull the trigger and get his other videos on how I do this other stuff. But I do like the idea of maybe having a landing page or something that says, here are the more friendly, experienced, less experienced ones.
Yeah.
So let me just interject real quickly. This is one of the things that this is a huge area to innovate on and capitalize on. A lot of people they throw a lot of content out there. And I know I do the same thing, but there is not a very good curated, here's where you start, and here is where you need to get in order to be proficient enough to get a job somewhere, right? And we will verify and vouch for you saying you can do everything you need to do to be a web developer, a Rails web developer. There really isn't. There's a lot of good lessons like Rails for zombies but there's nothing that promises you proficiency enough to actually make money in that industry. And so, aside from going to a boot camp, I don't know what there is. There has to be something online. Somebody needs to create something that promises, that says, this will teach you enough, this will give you the technical know-how so that you won't look ridiculous when you go in for an interview.
Right. Caveat, you have to do everything we tell you to.
Yes. And that is, I think that right there is where 90% of the value in, all the money is going to be right there. Somebody who can make somebody money, right? Because if you're selling something super advanced, they probably already have a job as a developer, and so going to this course, it's not going to increase their revenue by $50,000 a year or $70,000 a year. But if somebody's working at Walmart and they take your course and it could increase their revenue by $60,000, $50,000 a year, that is a huge benefit, a sale to them. And I think that there's far more people looking for that too. And that's why there's all these companies that are acqui-hiring and paying tens of millions of dollars, because somebody's going to crack that code, and so far it hasn't been done yet.
Yeah, that's a really excellent point. There's and I think also, you can almost cut out the recruiter middleman. I think in order for what you're saying to be successful, what you have to do is you basically have to find a few companies that you connect with, that you put people through this funnel, and then at the end of the funnel, you're you don't even have to interview this guy. You just insta-hire him. And you got to get that credibility, but if you get a few major players in that space, then you have guarantees on both sides. Then you're telling the employer, you're saying, I will get you, my funnel gets people, if they pass my test and I say that they're good, they're good. You can hire them, and they're going to be better than 90% of the people you have that you ever hire, and you won't have to spend a dime looking for a hire. And then at the same time, you can turn around and make that exact same promise to the people that come through that that you're offering the course to, and say, look, if you come in here, we have employers that will just, if you pass our test, if you've made it through this content, we guarantee you a job. You're going to be hired. They're just going to insta-hire you. And then
promise them a portfolio. Say you will work on commercial projects. By the time this course is over, you'll have projects up on GitHub, and you'll be able to show stuff that you've done. Codecademy doesn't offer that, right? You don't go through Codecademy and all of a sudden you have a bunch of projects, and somebody guiding you through to build these projects. And whoever, but this is what kind of I think about these things at night. But just this group of people right here has the ability to build this product, and it is a multi-tens of millions of dollar product. It is. I mean, you look at Code School being acquired for $36 million. You know what I mean? Like, we know what to do, right? We already have the blueprint. And so, figuring out bringing everything all together and getting that to work out is what's kind of and that's what I'm trying to do with Wild Academy and trying to grow. The problem I have right now is that I have this, I have this philosophy where it's like, I don't want to spend any money on a business that hasn't earned that money itself.
Yeah,
right? So
that's.
I was repairing phones out of the back of my trunk so that we'd have enough money to start the Fix-A-Phone business, right? So I don't know, because and DHH is the same way, where it's like you don't ever want to start a business that's already in the negative. And so, and he also says that the best way to know if an idea is good is don't have any money, right? So because
you have to go get hungry and get customers.
Right.
You have to find out people are going to pay before you can spend any money.
Exactly.
All right, let's throw down the gauntlet then. Okay, for our billionaire listeners, there's got to be one out there, right? Is there or multi-millionaire listener? Okay, invest in us.
I'm pretty sure that guy is you, John.
I'm not multi-deca millionaire or billionaire, so there's a big difference. In fact, this is interesting. Just as a real quick side note, how many seconds ago was a million seconds? Does anyone know?
Like last week or something?
Dinosaurs extinct?
Or how long ago was a million seconds?
So there's 60 seconds.
It's about 12 days. Okay.
11.5 days.
Yeah.
I have a calculator on my
computer. Edit out my guess.
Come on.
How long ago was a billion seconds?
A million times that.
100. Oh. Times it by 1,000?
Yeah, by 1,000.
12,000 days.
So like
30. It's like 32,000, or it might be 12.
31.5 years. Give or take.
Okay. Yes. Yeah. Okay. So that's the difference between a millionaire and a billionaire is 12 days versus 32.5 years. Just a good mental. I stole that from Tony Robbins' book, The Money Master, which I'll talk about later once I finish going through the whole book. But anyway, what I was going to say is that if we have like the millionaire or billionaire, the one that's listening, they can invest in us. $10 million, I think probably. You'll get 50% of the company, and then all of us will drop what we're doing and build this $100 million
point of clarification. They will get 49% of the company.
Yeah, don't ever give up 50%.
So I just registered code unbootcamp.com.
Nice.
I really like some of the ideas around this, and I think there are definitely some things that we could do. So here are some of the thoughts that I have on this really quickly. I feel bad because we've spent the whole time talking about me.
So do we, Chuck. So do we.
You're all static, dude.
It's this. Hang on.
Is that better?
Yeah.
Yep, that's much better.
Yeah. So it's the sound card. It's got to be. Anyway, So people go when they spend like 12 or 15 grand to go to these boot camps for 3 to 6 months, and it seems like a lot of them don't get hired. I've talked to several people who have graduated from them that don't get hired, and so I mean that's the outcome they want, right? They want that job, and so I'm just wondering what it would take, Anyway, definitely some thoughts here. Now I want to pursue this too. I don't have time.
I'll send you guys a link. I'll send you guys an article from. Did you guys read the TechCrunch article on the Pluralsight's acquisition of Code School?
Yep.
Nope. I didn't read it. I heard about it.
Yeah.
But yeah, see, that's why I said that, Chuck. It's because I know that we're all super busy. So we basically, in order for us to execute on this, we would need someone to come up and say, here's enough money to make it worth your guys' time to drop everything that you're doing and work on this.
Well, I'm executing on it though. Like, I have every intention of acquiring all of these other companies myself. It's just the slow game that I'm playing at this point. But yeah, I mean, I've only been doing this for 14 months, and so and just projected growth. I'll continue, and with this new sponsor that I got, I'm going to be probably around. I literally just, like, I don't want to talk about these numbers right now. But
You mean publicly?
Yes, because we are public. But yeah, there'll be enough money to possibly hire somebody and start building these the scaffold, I guess, or whatever for this site. I still haven't decided if I'm going to do like a member monthly for $29.99 or if I'm going to sell courses. But I think that the member site is going to be better because it emulates how a lot of these bigger tech companies have structured their companies themselves. And so,
well, one other thought on that really quickly is that if you're going to guarantee, hey, when you finish this process, you're going to be qualified for a job. I mean, some people are going to just quit their job and they're going to blitz through it, and some people are going to they're going to play it out so that I'm doing my I'm a greeter at Walmart all day, and then I come home and I work on this stuff. And so the other thing is some people are going to pick it up really quickly, and some people aren't. Mm-hmm. And so by doing the membership thing, you can allow them to move at their own pace, and right. you can target things at them, depending on where they're at, as opposed to trying to. And this is one of the problems I think some of the boot camps have is they get a 65-year-old guy who retired from his accounting firm, and he comes in and he's just not familiar with a lot of modern technological concepts, and they're trying to teach him how to build web pages. And what he really needs is he needs somebody who can get in there and help him understand the basics of this stuff before he moves ahead, and they're trying to cram him through in 3 months.
Right. Well, one of the things I also don't see very much of is, like, I would really try and focus on making it so that your school people can get student loans for. And I've looked.
You got to be really careful with that, though, because you're starting to step into the realm of regulation. There was a huge stink in Minnesota a few years ago about companies that were paying for people to get videos off of the internet, and the state of Minnesota came down and said, hey, if you're buying videos for your employees, these places that are selling the videos have to be accredited schools. They have to go through all these regulatory things because of state laws, and it was a giant mess for a long time. And so you got to really be careful right. if you're gonna talk about that stuff.
Yeah.
So we just need to create our own lending system, our own bank. We'll do a payment plan, actually.
John's willing to lend people money, so
yeah, at no interest.
John becomes the richest of all of us because he'll just collect interest on all of our projects.
John is now a loan shark doing subprime loans for people to go to school online.
Well, we know that he plans to buy half the real estate in the country, so
yes.
Yeah,
he's the next Donald Trump.
Yeah. If you make money off of lending money, that's where the real money is.
He's going to sell all his properties now.
John has the physique for it, that's for sure.
But no, it is really a good idea. It's just execution, and it is if someone can solve this problem and make it's the same thing with the code school, those boot camps. The problem is that you can't just you got to have. I don't know. The problem that I found with the boot camps is that there's not at the end of the boot camp, you need to have someone a bunch of really good Ruby experts. If you go through Ruby, kick you in the nuts and do it a chop to the neck, and you got to defend yourself with because if you don't have a test at the end that proves that that you know what you're doing, right, then it's just like, because nothing, you can't ever say, if you follow my method, you will achieve X result. You have to say, if you follow my method and you pass my test, right, so that you can ensure that, then you have the guarantee. Otherwise, that's why you gotta, like, if someone can't, do their kata or whatever it is, and they're getting, that 65-year-old guy that didn't understand, how to turn on his computer, and now he's gone through this course that didn't mean anything, right? Unless he could, like, a Ruby Kung Fu master, he could defend himself. So
this is kind of a problem with higher education in general, or just maybe even just education in general, is there's no screening out process, because like everyone believes that education is this magic bullet to wealth and prosperity and happiness. And so we can't deny anyone that, right? I mean, because that would just be cruel. So colleges, like once you get into college, it's pretty much impossible to get kicked out unless you try.
Yeah.
And I mean, it used to be that there was more of a screening out process, and some schools, like law schools, do still kind of have that. I imagine medical school does too, where it's more performance based, and 66% of people don't make it through, or something like that,
Well, but the reason that they do that is because they care about their reputation, not because they care about the people going through the program.
The interesting thing, those Fizzle guys had a really interesting thing. I don't even think they realized how good of a gem this was that they talked about. They talked about their service, because they charge like $30 a month for online training videos for entrepreneurs, and they had said that everyone who signs up for the service who would benefit from it is going to be successful from it, would have been successful anyway.
Mm-hmm.
And that is a really interesting thing to apply to any kind of education scenario, is to realize that you're helping people, but you're not making them successful, because you cannot make someone become the kind of person who is successful. They have to make that choice. And no training, no thing, like all those, for the best that you can do is accelerate their process. But if they're determined, an entrepreneur is going to become an entrepreneur. You can't stop them. Someone who's determined to learn programming is going to become a good programmer. You can't stop them. But at the same token, you can't make someone who's not going to do it, who does, whatever beautiful training program you give them, it won't work either. So that's kind of the big challenge. Is it's like the funnel will always be, you will never take 100% of people through a funnel and spit them out on the other end as now trained soldiers, right? There's going to be washouts, and it's going to be a huge number. It's a percent. You're only going to accelerate someone's pace.
Right.
Yep.
Now you're making me think. Dang it.
And there's still a lot of room, like there's a lot of room for improvement in all tutorials, videos, right? Like, so when I see a tutorial, you can collect the same amount, so I'm a big fan of Walt Disney and kind of the way he structures his company by creating 100-year products, creating characters that people fall in love with. Like, when you think of Walt Disney, he's a person, an individual, right? So imagine that your company name is, or if I had a company name that was called Jacob Williams, that'd be kind of weird, right? It's because people don't associate Walt Disney with the man with the beard, right? Or the mustache. They associate Walt Disney with all of the characters that he has created. Now, Code School did this right by doing Rails for Zombies. They figured out that people like stories more than anything else. Chuck knows I'm a big Brandon Sanderson fan, and we need to figure out a way to create stories that are so compelling within the education system so that people will make it all the way through that funnel. And so video quality still has room to get better. It still has a way of creating compelling stories. And I mean, if you go on all of these tech sites, they still don't have those, right? It's very dry. It's very, this is how you do that and that and that. And so this space is nowhere near maturing. It's still very, very in its infancy.
Yeah, no, it's very true, and just to take it another side trail here is one of the big problems that hasn't even been close to being addressed yet is that essentially, like if you think about the education system in the U.S., forget higher education, lower education, like K through 12, essentially you have a huge duplication problem. You have all these teachers essentially teaching the same thing, right? And right. I know that people say, oh, it has to be individualized or whatever. I'm not trying to bag on teachers, but I am saying that there's a huge problem of solving this, of saying, okay, can we create a step-by-step? I don't care how complicated the system is. Maybe it's got multiple paths and branches that you go down based on different things to individualize learning. But you cannot tell me that we cannot create an entire interactive, complete funnel to take someone from K through 12 without needing a teacher at all. Just a series of videos and tutorials and whatever it is. I mean, Khan Academy has kind of taken pieces of that, but they're afraid to say what they're actually doing because they're afraid of the teachers will come in, and kick their teeth in if they try to claim that they're replacing teachers. But honestly, if we're being totally honest here, teachers need to be replaced by the system, and that's where to me is where I see the huge big benefit, because what you're saying can be applied to that, and that, I mean, you're talking billions and billions of dollars worth of value there, and plus standardized, plus knowing that when someone comes out of 12th grade now, that doesn't mean that they know jack. They might not even know how to read. So
they don't even have great life skills or anything like that. I mean, they can't balance a checkbook. They can't, and we're basically giving the stamp of approval saying you can go out and live on your own and go to college and whatever else.
Yeah.
They're not qualified to be adults. and I completely agree, and then the personalization comes in when, one of the kids, we don't have a path for that one kid, so then you get the teacher to go in and just, help that one student. So it's more of a tutoring program to help them figure out, these areas where it's not worth creating the video product for just the, the handful of kids that are that one edge case. It's more cost effective to just send somebody over there and say, okay, we're going to just handle this one off.
Right, exactly, yep. So Derek fell ill.
He got a bad case of the YouTubes.
So
we usually do wrap up around now, don't we?
Yeah, we should probably wrap it up here. Anyone got some last thoughts, some wins to share, anything before we?
No, I think we're good.
I gotta get back to powering through my video sales letter.
Go.
I took a day off. Yeah, I had I did that last video sales letter in like 7 days, and so my mentor was like, "Hey, I need another one. You get 5 days."
Great.
Yeah. So.
The reward for good work is more work. So.
And let's. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I got to head down to Miami to do a code camp talk.
Cool.
Yeah. The biggest thing I would say for me is that I'm probably going to hire someone full time.
Sweet.
So yep, I'm getting really close to doing that. So.
Someone being.
Do you have a candidate or?
At your house?
I do have a candidate in mind, and I'm talking to him and working it out and seeing if I can, I've been looking for. I need a right-hand man at Simple Programmer in order to take things to the next level. So I'm looking at that level of someone that I can train up and can teach them to do what I'm doing, so that I can move on to other things, and because my time now is just more than 50% of it is spent just producing the staying level with the production that I'm producing every week, and not not doing new things. So so that's it.
Cool. Right. I'll be very interested to hear how that goes.
Yeah, me too.
It'll be interesting. So
it's been really fun, guys. Thanks for inviting
nice
me.
To meet you.
Yeah, thanks for coming, Jake.
Yeah, if you guys ever need a D'Artagnan, if any of you ever are ill or can't make it, then you can give me a last-minute notice, and I'll try and come on. So.
Okay. Yeah, sounds great.
All right.
All right. Talk to you later.
See you guys next week.
Yep. Bye.
Wanna start a business, but you just know how to code.